911, what are you reporting?
Get somebody out there. I don't know what, it's big, real big person. That's all I can say.
Here's famous Bigfoot footage from face-to-face Sasquatch encounters to some of the first Bigfoot footage of all time 4th of July sighting. This footage was taken on 4th of July 2012 and seems to show a Sasquatch and its baby fleeing into the woods. A 4th of July celebration is happening nearby, and it's believed the elder Sasquatch may have been out foraging when the fireworks started. Being naturally cautious creatures, the Sasquatch began to flee when it was spotted by the person who recorded this footage. The Sasquatch is well aware of them, but is clearly more concerned with getting to its hidden young and fleeing into the wood rather than dealing with them. After collecting the young Sasquatch from behind a rock, it escapes and has not been sighted since. Two hunters were in the Mount Arrowsmith forest when they discovered a horrifying sight. A makeshift shelter of pine boughs and branches, inside of which were the remains of 3 different people. Stunned, the hunters set up a trail cam in front of the shelter and waited. When they returned the next day, the trail cam was damaged, torn free, but not quite destroyed. They managed to recover this chilling footage, which seems to show a horrific beast returning to its den. The Sasquatch then seems to notice the camera and attempts to destroy it. There has been no further reports of the status of this Sasquatch, though there are rumors that it has moved on. Next up is the sighting on Marblehead Mountain. A youth group spots a massive creature in the mountains. Each year, the Campus Life youth group would go on a hiking trip in the Marblehead Mountains. This year, 2001, youth group leader Jim Mills was leading the group when the group discovered a strange shelter in the woods. The shelter is only large enough for 1 or 2 people, but the branches and boughs which make it up are torn and shattered as if some ape had ripped them apart. Then one of the group members spots something up the mountain and draws the camera's attention to a large Sasquatch lumbering down the hill. The creature seems to be about 8 feet tall, judging by the trees around it, and many people believe that the youth group had in fact stumbled across the nest of the Sasquatch. Thankfully, they left the area before the Sasquatch got any closer. Now for a sighting face to face. The hunters who recorded this footage saw something interesting in the wallow, some large prints which seemed like they could belong to Sasquatch. At around 2:20 in the afternoon, however, as they were settling in, the hunters were met with an absolutely stunning and chilling sight. From less than 20 feet away, the Sasquatch appears. This incredibly clear footage allows us to see the facial features of the creature, which is incredibly unique. It almost immediately catches the scent of the hunters and then simply waits in place, seeing what is to come. Had this encounter happened just a few feet closer, the creature likely would have charged. Next up is the oil field ape. No one expects to be watched by a Sasquatch while they work, but for this oil field worker from Alberta, that's exactly what happened. He pulled up to a pipeline in the dead of winter to go through some diagnostic checks, and didn't even bother to lock his car due to how remote in the wilderness this site is. Everything seems fine. He does his checks, gets back in his truck, and starts to pull out, and then we see it. A huge 9-foot tall Sasquatch watching from the trees. The creature has clearly been there for some time, and is likely keeping watch over a nearby family. It's chilling to think that this worker was mere meters from a certain end, but thankfully he avoided a grisly fate. He didn't even notice the creature in the moment, and only saw it months later when reviewing this footage. And finally, a Sasquatch watching the worker. This footage is some of the most disturbing I've ever seen and comes out of Alberta. It was recorded on an oilfield worker's dash cam and was only discovered days later when he was reviewing the footage. He'd just gotten back from doing checkups on an oil rig and drives off, which is when we catch a truly chilling sight. As the car turns down the road, we get to see a massive Sasquatch nearly covered in snow watching from the trees. Sasquatch are highly territorial. However, it's likely this worker was lucky enough to not seem to pose a serious threat and was thus allowed to leave with his life. He wasn't even aware of the sort of danger that he was in.